So good afternoon, let's get started. Thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar today, Qualtrics in Higher Education, Beyond the Basics. This is a live webinar and we've scheduled about 20 or 25 minutes for the content part, then we'll leave some minutes at the end for questions and answers. For context and the catalyst for this webinar, we've had contact with our academic clients in the past few months and a lot of conversations and discussions around how you're using Qualtrics. And I think that we noticed that many of your unique and interesting uses were uses that we weren't aware of, and we wanted to enable knowledge sharing between us and you and between yourselves as well to make sure that you're using your access to the Qualtrics account that you have to its fullest potential. Just one or two housekeeping notes before we begin. So this session will be recorded and we're happy to share that with you. There's another session next week, so next week on Wednesday, that's at 12:30 on the 22nd of June. And please feel free to share either the content itself in the session or the actual or our contact details with your colleagues if they couldn't attend right now, if you think there's things they might find interesting. Throughout the webinar, we'd love if you wanted to interact with us or have that communication. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to use the chat function in the webinar to communicate with us. And if we don't get to those questions during this session, we'll follow up with you afterwards to make sure that all the questions and all the comments are engaged with and dealt with. So a brief introduction to us. Some of you might know us already. For those that don't, my own name is Rob and I'm here with my colleagues Therese and Sophie. We're on the Academic Insights team here in Dublin. And we have academic clients in not just Europe actually, but right across EMEA. We're really excited to see a lot of you already on this webinar and register for the content today. Again, you'll see our contact details there, but I know we're in contact with a lot of you anyway. To give you a quick overview of our agenda for today's webinar, so we wanted to take a few moments at the beginning to mention some key initiatives that we really feel you should be aware of as our academic clients. The main content of the webinar is then split into two parts. So Therese will initially take us through some underutilized features. Some are new, some are already available to you, and some you might already be using. We also wanted to mention some updates and developments that have happened and may, as of yet, be relatively untapped. The second part of the content then will take you through many uses of Qualtrics outside of your typical academic research, where we've seen our university clients use Qualtrics to successfully develop new and exciting areas of the student experience and the student journey. So not just directly that research, but also utilizing the platform for other uses and developments. Initially, just to speak to innovation and research and how we want to support that, many of you might already know that our roots are in academia. We began with academic clients, and while we now have many corporate clients, I would say that supporting this groundbreaking research and supporting innovation is always at the heart of what we do. So I wanted to mention a couple of ways in which we strive to do that. I hope a few of you have already been using the Innovation Exchange, but if you haven't, I've placed a link on the slide that you see on your screen right now. This is an online space where content is shared, ideas are shared, and not just from Qualtrics, but also from our partners, for example, or for clients themselves. And if you have suggestions as well for content, we'd love to hear that from you and love to engage with you about that. You'll see a little screen on the right-hand side of the slide with Qualtrics on campus, but there are different types of industries, different types of research areas, and not just research methodologies, but a lot of content there as well. There are a number of programs that you also should be aware of. So just for example, some of you might have partaken in the survey mod competition that we ran, where we awarded research grants to students and professors that were engaging our platform and engaging the software in the most innovative and interesting ways. So that was open to all university faculty and students. And the results and more information is also on the Innovation Exchange actually. But just to give you a couple of examples about what we saw and what we found so interesting. One student, for example, repurposed the survey side of Qualtrics as an online scheduler to automatically update his calendar. We also had a professor who simulated negotiation training and experience right within the platform itself. So students were able to negotiate on rent, not with a person, but with an intuitive and engaging survey. We found that was really, really well done and pushing Qualtrics to the limits, which we really like to see. This innovation exchange and that networking and making sure you're in contact with each other, we don't just do that online, but we also run many events throughout the year. So some of you might have been in Amsterdam about 2 weeks ago for the academic roundtable, where researchers could engage with us and also each other on different thought leadership, different methodologies, and different ways that they would like to use the platform and their research. So in the coming months, we have a few more coming up, and if you have any more questions about where they are, or if you have suggestions for where we should be, then let us know and contact us. We wanted to just briefly mention the Insights platform before we pop into the this year, at the beginning of this year at Insights Summit. They moved towards the Insights platform away from what would have been traditionally the Research Suite. And in the last few months, if you've been logging into your account regularly, you'll already have seen the ability to toggle over between them or already moved to the Insights platform. This upgrade this development with the platform is not just aesthetic, it's not just about the user interface, but there are many other elements to that. So some of the updates that we've seen are in text analysis or in the reporting and visualization, which Therese will actually speak a little bit about later on in the webinar. Our goal with this was to really create a central point of management for the data that you're collecting. So breaking down those data silos and speeding up the processes and administration time spent with your research so that you can focus on the most important things. And we've really seen a very successful move in the past couple of months to that. And based on your feedback, I think you find it successful too. So we're really, really happy with that. Slightly related to that, you'll see on the bottom we've put in a logo from StatWing. So you might have seen in the news in the past couple of weeks that Qualtrics recently acquired StatWing, a statistical analysis platform. Our goal with that is that by the end of this year, our clients will be able to do statistical analysis directly within the platform. So again, housing all of those processes, being one central solution and enabling you to push it as far as you can and do as much as you can. So I think we're really excited to see what you'll be able to do on the Insights platform, and really excited about clients being able to do things like regression analysis, instant visualization of statistics directly on the platform, not just collecting it with Qualtrics.
Great. So as Robin mentioned, many of our newest innovations are with our academic clients in mind. And we're going to take a few minutes to show you some of these features and the value that they can have for your research. So I should mention, some of these are included as standard in your university package. Some of these might not be. And if you're unsure, I really recommend reaching out to us and we can clarify that for you. So first of all, one of our newest features is the text highlighting question. And we've seen this utilized for things like ad testing and marketing, psychological experiments, and learning and teaching as well. So the idea behind highlighting is to enable your respondent to interact with the text presented to them. So in this case, we've asked the participant to let us know which parts of the text they find they like, for instance, or what they dislike. But you could make this feedback far more, I suppose, insightful. So what parts of the text are persuasive or ineffective, provocative and neutral, interesting or boring? And I suppose moving on to more specific use cases, we've seen one psychology researcher use this for an experiment that involved priming. So she primed participants with a video, and they were primed to either feel angry or happy. And based on this, she presented them with a text and was able to test that priming based on their interaction with the text. But in a more general sense, you might want to use this for something like teaching and learning. So again, you can grasp what students understand or what they don't understand, or what needs to be covered further. So again, these are the very specific use cases using this question type. If you notice another use case or if anything jumps out at you, I really recommend interacting with us because we'd really like to get that feedback. So another feature that's proving both very popular and valuable is the signature question. And this is great for gaining authorization or consent from your respondents. So all they need to do is use their mouse or finger on a touch screen to scribe their signature. So we've seen this change things like the research ethics process, whereby your ethics committee need only add an electronic signature to an ethics application form. So this is really easily combined with the file upload, so where ethics applications can now be uploaded and assigned to the appropriate person through Qualtrics. And what this has done is cut down the ethics process, but also the research process by days and weeks. So where previously individuals needed to print, sign, and upload their forms, they can now have everything automized and centralized using Qualtrics. Again, another specific example from around the research, but you might and centralize the processing of CVs and application forms and things like that. So this is one of our most exciting new features, and again, it is available to all clients as standard on their university package. So what this is the inline email question. So if you have a consent form or a multiple choice question, and you can actually bring this into the email itself. So what this does is it increases participant engagement from the very beginning, and we've seen response rates soar as a result. So on the front end, what this looks like to the participant is they can see something like what you see on the screen here, but you might also remember it from the webinar invites that we sent you as well. Now it's worth noting, as I mentioned, that this is available to you, and it's really worth checking out on your own account. Perhaps an underutilized feature, but one that's proved very useful for a lot of our clients, is the offline application. And this is used where Wi-Fi access is limited. And we've seen this used in field research in schools and in hospitals for patient-reported outcomes, for instance. But institutionally, you might want to use it for event feedback. You might want to use it on a graduation or an open day, for instance. So it's a really great way to get on-the-spot feedback, but also in comparison to post-event surveys, we've seen response rates being a lot higher as well. And again, something we're, I suppose, very proud to introduce to our clients today is the text analysis feature. Again, it's available to all account users, and it's a great way to do in-depth thematic or content analysis. So simply tag the themes as you notice them and drill down and contextualize them as appropriate. So Qualtrics is really customizable in this sense, but it's also quite smart. So it will group similar words together, like happy and happiness. But we'll also remove nonsense words, stop words, explicitives, as well as you tell us to do. So we've used the example of course evaluation here, where you can really drill down into student feedback. This is really groundbreaking for anyone who needs to combine qualitative and quantitative research on the one platform. So this might be a good time to bring up our new academic partners and integrations as well, and what they can do for your research. So in the past 6 months, we've partnered with some of the top academic providers. On the academic research side, we've partnered with things like Luminoso and Vivo. So this enables you to do in-depth qualitative analysis, Tableau for dynamic reporting, sampling, and so much more aside. So we've actually not included all our partners here, and they are available to you. But I suppose to give you a flavour of the potential our partnerships can bring. Now, we are particularly proud of our integration with Canvas. So this is one of the top virtual learning systems. So what this means is that student feedback, modules, assignments, and course resources are all centralized in the one space. So students and staff don't need to switch between programs for these functions. Now, it's module feedback at the click of a button, and also quizzes as well, but it's extremely accessible for students. Now, Canvas is just one of the out-of-the-box integrations, But if you're using Moodle or Blackboard or another VLE system, I really recommend reaching out to us, and we can let you know as to how we'll work with those as well. So the API feature in Qualtrics enables integration with all sorts of programs and modules. So if you need to save time by centralizing content in one space, let us know and we can see what we can do.
To take you on to the second part of our webinar and the content today that we wanted to walk through, to give you a context for this part. So while we were engaging with our academic clients and with universities, it became very quickly apparent that Qualtrics isn't just used for your typical academic research. The platform itself and Qualtrics is being used in many, many different areas on the campus by many different departments, organizations, and institutions within the higher education organizations. So I know student journey and student experience have become something of buzzwords in the last couple of years. And I think there are different thoughts on the methodologies and how to gauge that. But what we've seen most successful with our clients is when they're benchmarking themselves against themselves and improving from that point. So whether you agree with the ranking systems, the student experience surveys and things like that, what's most helpful is to be honest with yourself so that you can really get a holistic view of the university, of different processes, of the student as well as the professors, and even the reputation of the university itself. So let's walk through the student journey a little bit and mention a few points where we can help. So certainly it becomes apparent that the student journey begins before the student steps foot on campus, before they might even apply. Their first interactions with the university can be the most critical, and quite often they're done on the website. So whether it's a UCAS system or a different system, but when they're researching courses and researching universities, the interactions on the university website can be key. And I think we all know that the university websites can be so content heavy. The journeys can get complicated, and we've seen clients be very successful in using Qualtrics implemented on the website to guide that journey, to make sure that the students and prospective students are seeing exactly what they need to see, whether that be translated content, whether that be certain types of courses that are relevant for their region or for their background, and also gathering feedback and catching any glitches that might be on the website. So one example, actually you see a couple of examples on the right side of the screen here of how it can look on the screen, and that's completely customizable. But one example I'd love to mention is the University of North Dakota, where I think you have a really strong example of how it worked. They knew from their research and their institutional research that lifelong learning was an element that really needed to be developed. For this type of learning available, the conversion rates on the website were low and not reflecting the research that they had done. So they were in and around 3% of when prospective students would research the course to when they would actually apply. Within about 3 weeks, when they implemented Qualtrics, we saw those conversion rates jump from 3% to 17%. So you're really seeing how a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help on the website with Qualtrics can dramatically increase conversion rates and increase applications for different courses. When the student arrives, or even just before, we've seen quite a few of our clients use assessment tools. So like 360 assessments, 180 even, peer review, or professor and self-assessment tools. So that the student themselves, as well as the university, or as well as an academic advisor or a mentor, knows exactly where the student's strengths and weaknesses lie and what needs to be developed. So the student knows which courses to choose. The professor knows where to guide them the most and where courses can start to develop and help them with that. We can share case studies after this session happily, but one example that could be good to look at is the Washington University in St. Louis. And they were using it with their MBA students. So those students were working full-time. They didn't have a lot of time to go through psychometric testing and assessments and analysis in order to identify strengths and weaknesses. So Qualtrics was implemented. The building and reporting time of those 360 tests was reduced by 80%. And the real key here is individualized assessment, individual feedback that you can develop yourself relative to what you personally need. We also saw that they were using a class average score for every competency, which was incredibly useful and something that they didn't have before. During their time at university, a key element of engaging with a student is course evaluation. So it's about making real change, and we've seen clients be very successful with implementing an automated system for their course evaluation. So professors know exactly where the course is successful or not, and that faculties can develop the courses and make the changes that need to be made to make the education experience as effective as possible. The key with Qualtrics is the real-time visibility and role-based dashboards. So based on your permissions and based on your role within an exploration of data, making it more effective and more relevant for the person that needs to view it. I think the key here is relevancy. And individual links generated remove manual errors, and anonymity is guaranteed as professors can't drill down or recognize handwriting or anything like that. So when we go to the next slide, we see two course evaluation dashboards. On the left-hand side, and I hope you can see this, there's the professor view. So what is important for the professor is displayed here. So their rating, the rating of the course, a comparison of the student satisfaction compared with other courses, or how they feel the instructor interacted with the class and with the students themselves. On the right-hand side, you see a dean of faculty or university, or a sample of their view. So based on their role, obviously, different things are interesting and important for them. They don't need to see how prompt the instructor is in grading assignments, but they would like to see the average course rating by department. And these dashboards are fully customizable as well, depending on what the university and what the professors and deans would like to see themselves. Towards the end of the student journey, and I think what's important to note here is that the student journey doesn't end with their graduation. The universities more and more are increasing the communication post-graduation and keeping in close contact with alumni. What we've seen in terms of alumni organizations and universities themselves are two main areas. So I've given an example here of how Dartmouth College in the US recruited their own panel from their alumni, saving money and conducting a lot more research within a one-person team. So I think that situation might be familiar for a few of you. But what you can also use Qualtrics to do, and we've seen it work very successfully, is prevent alumnus fatigue, prevent over-surveying, prevent too many emails and over-contacting the alumni, to make sure that when they do get emails that they're completely relevant for them, to increase engagement and make sure that events then, for example, or different asks that the university might have, or different newsletters are actually seen and the content is engaged with. So that concludes we hope you found it as enjoyable to listen to as we did to present. We might just take a couple of minutes to answer some questions. I see there's quite a few questions that have come in here on the chat function within the webinar. Okay, so one question here is, where is the full list of partners available?
Okay, it's a good question. So if you want to get the full list of partners, we can send you a link to the Innovation Exchange and the relevant page for academic partners. It's a really good question.
Mm-hmm. And here I see there's a question about the offline app. So traditionally, you might have experience already with the offline app, an Apple device, and the question is that available on Windows now? So I'm delighted to be able to say yes, it is, depending on the tablet that you're using. So it's used on Windows 7, any versions of Windows 7 and higher. But I think actually it would be great to take that offline and talk specifically about your case, because that type of field research, we can help a lot more with that. And if there's anybody else that has questions about that, I'm happy to contact any of us, and we'll be able to help you with that. Okay, we might leave it there for the moment. We just wanted to say thank you for your time today, and you should expect in the next couple of days, or at least next week, to be contacted by a colleague of ours, Jessica Howland, who will be reaching out with information packs and a summary of the content that you've seen today. Any case studies you might need, you can happily get in touch with us and we'll make sure you get that content. And if you have any questions, please feel free to engage with us.